And welcome to the Center for Creativity. My name is Anina Collier. I'm the Dean of the Center for Creativity and George Kaiser Family Foundation Endowed Chair. We're so happy that you all are here for a very special collaboration and event in the community. And I'm happy to see people taking in the exhibition, and we'll invite you to stick around after the panel discussion to continue looking at that. The artwork was created during the Philbrook's Art Focus program and then also the Longest Day event. And you'll hear a lot more about that once the panel gets started. There's a few people that I want to thank. Of course, the Philbrook Museum of Art and the Alzheimer's Association Oklahoma chapter, and especially Laura Voth, Nellie Windsor, and Aaron Powell. They've been really wonderful collaborators, and I just appreciate all of you so much. And I also want to thank Dean Midge Elliott for her support and her participation in this program, and all of our students who are here from our health sciences program. We're so glad you're here. And most importantly, to the caregivers today for people with Alzheimer's that are willing to share their stories and answer our questions and may have also loaned art. We appreciate you so much being willing to come and talk to us all today. And I would be remiss to miss thanking Associate Professor of Communications Stephanie Youngblood and her students, her service learning students who helped collect the stories of the people with Alzheimer's and prepare some interpretations so that we can get more insight into this disease. And I just want to let you know that next Friday, so a week from today at the same time at 10 a.m., we will be holding an improv workshop right here, and that's for caregivers. It'll be very participatory. Aaron and Nellie from the Alzheimer's Association have worked with Bethany Frank, who teaches improv here at TCC, and we'll be learning some hands-on communication skills that will help us, instead of trying to draw the person with Alzheimer's or dementia into our world, helping us step into their world. And that's kind of the new paradigm of care that really helps, as you may know, and so we'll learn some skills to help us do that. And again, that's free, of course, so we'd welcome you back next Friday at the same time, 10 a.m. And TCC students who are here today, if your professor has offered extra credit or any kind of credit for attendance, make sure that you sign in at the back table so that we know you're here and we can let your professor know. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the facilitator of our panel from the Philbrook Museum of Art, Ms. Laura Voth.
I'm a little short. Okay. Everyone who's on the panel discussion, do you want to come up and take your seat? Well, hi, everyone. My name is Laura Voth, and I work at the Philbrook Museum of Art. I'm the community programs coordinator there. A little bit of a mouthful. It's a new title for me, so I'm still learning it. And today on this panel discussion, we are going to be talking about Philbrook's Art Focus program that was built in collaboration and partnership with the Alzheimer's Association Oklahoma chapter. And then we'll also be talking about the Longest Day event, which is a national event created by the Alzheimer's Association. And then Philbrook partnered with the Alzheimer's Association to put our own little artistic spin on it and create an event for everybody here in the Tulsa area. I want to introduce everyone who is on our panel today. Sitting right next to me is Nellie Windsor. Sitting next to Nellie is Aaron Powell. Next to Aaron is LaShonda Horn. And then next to LaShonda is Vicki Foster. Now, these three women closest to me work at the Alzheimer's Association Oklahoma chapter, and then Vicki Foster has donated her time today and her story. She is one of our storytellers from The Longest Day, and we'll be explaining that a little bit later in our panel. So the first thing I want us to do is talk about, let the Alzheimer's Association talk about what they do for the Oklahoma community, and then we'll move into talking about Art Focus, and then we'll move into talking about the Longest Day, and then you can ask questions. Or if anyone has a question they're dying to ask, you can interrupt us. This is very informal. We like to have conversations. We want this to be interactive, so please feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like. So I will hand it over to Nellie and Aaron.
Hi, thank you so much for coming today. And like Laura said, as we talk about the association and the art programs and everything, if you have any questions, let's just make this an open forum that we can interject, or if you have experiences that you would like to share also, because we had several students take part in the art program recently. So let's make this an open forum, and feel free to raise a hand and let us know if you have something to ask or share.
Yeah, I'll start with a question. How many of you guys have heard of the Alzheimer's Association? Yay, that's a good amount of hands. Can anyone name something that we do, the Alzheimer's Association?
A walk.
A walk, yes, we do. The big Tulsa walk is actually coming up next weekend on the 22nd. That's going to be downtown, so feel free to ask us about that. That's a big, great event. Yeah.
We work closely with Alzheimer's patients and
We do. One of our major pillars is care and support. So we try to support and care for the families that are walking through this disease right now while we don't have a cure for it. We provide support groups, we provide education programs, we offer free care consultations for families who are going through the disease. A lot of folks don't really have time to sit down with their doctor, and the doctor doesn't have time to sit down and talk with them and explain everything that's going on. And so they can actually come to our office, or we can come to them, and we will sit down with them and talk about planning and figuring out what's next in the process. So that's a big part of what we do as well. Yeah, anything else? Anyone else know what else we do?
One more thought, since the walk was brought up and some of our services, some of you may have heard of our walks or our galas, and those two fundraisers are what makes it possible for us to offer all of the services we have for free. So we pass that on to the caregivers, so no one gets an extra bill from us, and you don't have to have an exact diagnosis of Alzheimer's, because dementia covers several different types of issues that can happen, and we don't only help people with Alzheimer's disease only. So
Yep. That's a good point. Does everybody know that Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing? They're not the same thing. Alzheimer's is one type of dementia. Dementia is an umbrella term. If you imagine kind of like cancer. If someone says they have cancer, you ask them what type of cancer they have. But most people know there's many different types of cancer. Dementia is the same thing. If someone has dementia, they have a certain type of dementia. Alzheimer's is just the most common type. So there's a little trivia for you today. Another big piece of what the Alzheimer's Association does and raises money for is research. So we are one of, I think, the top funders in the nation of research to find a cure for the disease. So one of the things I say, I love working for this organization that's constantly trying to put themselves out of business. We really don't want to have jobs. We would rather have this disease gone and not have to be here. So research is a big part of it. The other piece of that puzzle that goes along a little bit with research as well is advocacy. And you guys actually have a lot to be proud of here in Oklahoma. A lot of our senators and representatives have been on the forefront of getting some bills passed into law to get more funding for research. And really, Oklahoma has done an amazing job of really being on the front of that movement. So it's a great thing that we do. Let's see, is there anything else? Obviously, our Drawing on Memories program, you guys are seeing all around you. LaShonda Horn is our early stage coordinator, so we do specifically try to engage folks in the early stages of the disease and their caregivers to keep them engaged, to keep them involved in the community, to keep them involved with each other as a community. So we have some support groups specifically for people that are in the early stages of the disease that come together. Those people come together and have their own support group to talk about what's going on. And then we have things like Drawing on Memories, where it's a social activity that they can come together and they can exercise their brains using art and using creativity to do that, which is something that I know LaShonda and Laura will talk more about. But I think that's another way we're trying to engage. And the Alzheimer's Association actually around the country does a pretty good job of this. They really embrace the idea of art and dementia going together. Actually, you can really, it taps into a part of their brain that doesn't get accessed very often. So it's really interesting. Anything you want to add? Oh, we got a question.
Are there any guidelines that you can share with us, or if you have
Yeah. Guidelines, not necessarily. This is one of those diseases where it's a hard disease to have guidelines for, because one of the things we say at the association a lot is if you've met one person with dementia, you've really met one person. It's a really hard disease to generalize. It affects people in lots of different ways. But I think any type of creativity that you can tap into that resonates with them, that's going to be the big thing, is trying to focus on what works for them. Art works for some people. You can get out the watercolors, you want to go with non-toxic materials. Obviously, you want to try to keep it just in case there's some confusion about what to do with them. But music is another amazing way to activate that same kind of creative part of their brain. And listening to music is huge. Playing some people, there's some incredible stories of musicians that get Alzheimer's and maintain their musical ability long after they've lost their memory. I can think of one gentleman in particular that I met who could barely form a sentence, but you put him in front of a piano and he could play sonatas. It was absolutely incredible. You wouldn't have believed it was possible. So there's this part of their brain, that creative part, but color and sound and really more using the senses, the five senses is really a big part of that, and going along with someone with dementia and kind of joining them on that journey.
And I'd like to add to that as well. While there are no guidelines necessarily, people with Alzheimer's, one of the incredible things is that even though their memory is deteriorating, their imagination and creativity is still fully intact. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm facilitating an art focus, and LaShonda, you can chime in whenever you want. This is a good transition. One of the things I love to do is just provide new materials for people with Alzheimer's to experiment with. So things that they can touch and feel. Sometimes we bring sense into there. So it's sensory art therapy, if you are familiar with that term. Just something that they can experience, because we're aware that not everybody in this room, unless you all secretly are artists. Not everybody can create something and have it be the next Mona Lisa, right? But what's incredible about art is that the experience itself of creation is incredibly healing and therapeutic. And so I would suggest getting whatever material you want and just letting your participant, your person that has Alzheimer's, just play. Because sometimes the experience of playing is so much more impactful than the outcome or the result of what they're actually creating, if that helps answer your question.
And when she says that, I immediately think about when I'm participating, I focus on, the facilitator is, just because she does her art piece doesn't mean that's right. The participant doesn't mean that they're wrong. So I always engage and say, our way is the only way, and our way is the right way, because we don't want to discourage anyone. Whatever activity or whatever memory that they're drawn into, that's their memory. They can't go into our memories. We want to go into their memories. So we're focused on the memory, we're focusing on the thinking and the behaviors. I would say, since I've been a part of the Art Focus program, we haven't had any behaviors, because we're focused on the activities. We're focused on who are we serving. We want to go into, when he talks about middle stage, we focus on the things that they can still do. So perhaps if we do an art project, and it may be 10 steps, as we progress in the disease, we're going to simplify the steps for our loved one, okay? And so when you talk about that, you may have 10 steps laying on the table that you want your loved one to do. Well, the goal is that you're going to engage with her and simplify those steps. And when Erin talked about focusing on the things that they love, we want to be engaged with that. We want, they are still who they are inside. So if they were a mechanic, or if they were a truck driver, or if they were a homemaker, we want to be engaged in those type of conversations, because you'll be amazed what comes out. And you'll see some of this art piece, one or two may look as if it may be negative, but when you're looking at the art of who's doing the art, you don't see a negative behavior, that they're engaged in that memory. And that's one of the things that we do focus on.
Yeah, so Art Focus, like I said in the beginning, is a Philbrook program in partnership with the Alzheimer's Association, Oklahoma chapter. And we meet every third Tuesday of the month at the Philbrook Villa. If any of you are ever interested in coming by and checking it out, it's from 10 in the morning to noon in the afternoon. And people with Alzheimer's and their care partner, their family members, resident facilities, they come. It's a free program. And they engage in a gallery activity or conversation. So we go into the museum and we talk about art together. And then we go into our studio space and we create artwork. And so if you turn directly behind you, you'll see that all the artwork on those black panels, except for the far one on the left, was created by someone who participated in that program. And there are quotes underneath the artwork that were recorded by TCC English students from Stephanie Youngblood's class. There's some reflections written there also by TCC students from Stephanie Youngblood's class, so I encourage you to read that. But one of the things I would love to share with you about Art Focus. First of all, how many of you have ever heard of the program, by show of hands? Just a couple? Okay, great. Well, you're going to have to go back and tell your friends and family about it, so listen real well.
We may ask you a question, so I'm observing.
Just one of the things I wanted to talk about with Art Focus is just how special and precious it is. When some people think about art classes at a museum, they think it's a little stiff. When we're in the gallery, you know, someone comes up and lectures to people. We don't do that. We realize that a lecture in a gallery may not be as efficient to someone who may not remember necessarily what we're telling them later when they go back home. So we focus more on the conversations in the gallery. We're not afraid of looking at abstract art. We sometimes have our best conversations looking at abstract art. I remember we were looking at this one piece, and this one lady really did not like it. It was very abstract. It was almost all covered in black, and there's a couple white lines, and she just was not having it. She did not like it at all. But as we had our conversations about it and said, why don't you like that piece? And she said, well, it's dark, and I don't like dark. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you like dark? And then someone else would add their point of view to the painting. And by the very end, they were having this really intelligent conversation about what is art? What makes some people like art instead of other people who don't like this artwork? And what does this painting mean? And what was the artist trying to say? And it was a very intelligent conversation that I would expect from a group of people like yourselves. And it was happening among a group of people who had Alzheimer's disease. So another quick experience is we love to laugh, guys. We love to laugh. So we were looking at another abstract piece. It was cubist. And I hope this doesn't offend any of you, but one lady was just staring at this piece, and she just had this, she was furrowing her brows and just so confused. And so I looked at her and I said, can you please tell me, what are you thinking? She says, well, everybody says this is a still life. I'm like, okay. And she said, I don't think it's a still life. So I said, well, what do you think it is? She said, I think it's a drunk nun who fell down the stairs. Like, okay, why don't you point that out? And she did, and we were all laughing and having a great time. And you see, it wasn't so much about teaching them new knowledge about the artist, about cubism, and teaching dates and the thought behind it. It's more about the experience, that they're having a good time, that they're happy, that we're increasing their overall being, their well-being, that they're interacting with other people, they're making friends and making new memories with their care partners. LaShonda, do you have anything to add about the gallery experience?
I have one thing. One thing I think that's important is if you think a lot of these participants are coming from an assisted living, And so how often are they asked what their perspective means? And so I think that's one huge thing that draws people in, because they're asked what their opinion is about something, not just being told it's time to go eat or it's time to go to bed or whatever. They're actively participating in something that's creative and fun. And so they're kind of empowered by that.
And then we go into the gallery. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I was just going to say that I'm sometimes often embarrassed by the things my mother says in public situations, and a drunk nun falling down the stairs would be mild. I just wonder how that's handled, and I mean, I guess you must come across that, so this
Yes.
is the only family there saying inappropriate things. Like, I feel like she should have a sign that says, I say inappropriate things.
We have actually a business card that we provide to caregivers that says, please be patient, the person I'm with, and you can give that to someone in such a dignified way. I help volunteer with my friend at the Greek Festival, and I've been with the Alzheimer's Association for 10 years. And I was there helping my friend hang up posters, and at lunchtime one day, these two men come in, and one of them slides one of our business cards to us, and I didn't even identify myself. I was so happy to see this happen, because he has so much respect for the guy he brought, his friend who has Alzheimer's, and so he didn't want him to feel uncomfortable. He didn't want us to feel uncomfortable. So that's like a prime example. If you take her to the grocery store and there's something going off, you could even just show it to them. You don't have to hand one to everyone you meet, but that is a way. And the man who had the disease had no idea what was going on, and so he was still completely respected and didn't think his friend was saying something about him. So that's one way that could be handled.
I think that also it's a group of people that are all dealing with the same thing together. So this whole group is designed for people with dementia and the caregivers of people with dementia. So it's a tough group to shock. They've seen it all. So, and I say this coming from, we do support groups, and our caregiver support groups, a lot of them talk about, there are things I can say in this room that I couldn't say in any other room, and they can laugh and talk about it openly. Whereas in kind of the normal general public, there are some things that they wouldn't feel comfortable saying. The artists also that are working with them, and people like Laura that are working with them, understand that and understand what they're dealing with. So I don't think that shouldn't ever be a burden, those kind of behaviors. You might also be surprised, and kind of what LaShonda said, when people are actively engaged and they're really trying to engage with each other in a work of art and then do art, you see actually a lot less of those behaviors. Some of those actually diminish when they're really engaged in something. You won't see as much of that. So,
Something else that just comes to mind is when you say that's where the Alzheimer's Association, we come in and talk about how to communicate. So one of the important things that we talk about is validate. So that when she brings up that statement, validate that's what she's feeling at that time, and maybe you may, depending on what it is, you may go into it, and then you'll distract and redirect her into something else that she likes. So even in the public, you can do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note of conversation, I'll go back into Art Focus. We also have a studio component that I told you a little bit about earlier and described when we were answering your question. I want to share a story with you guys just about how creating artwork really is quite powerful, even if someone has Alzheimer's disease or other dementia. So I was working with this one woman named Edith, and we were doing self-portraits. And so I challenged them to put something in their self-portrait that's not just their face, but something that represents them, something that they like. If that's a bird maybe that they like, or if it's another family member or a house, it could be anything they wanted. And I noticed that this one woman in the corner was struggling a little bit. She looked a little sad, so I went over to her and I looked at her piece and I asked her to tell me about it. and it looked like a stick figure. There was just a circle for the head and two little beady eyes, but her mouth was drawn in the shape of a heart. So I asked her, why did you draw your lips, in the shape of a heart? And she told me that it's because she has so many beautiful memories and moments saved in her heart. Even though she can't access them in her mind, they're there in her heart, and she wants to represent that by her lips and her painting, how she wants to share her heart with you. And so it wasn't necessarily about making the best portrait, that represented her physically. It represented what was going on in her mind at that moment in time, what was going on in her heart. And that is one of the reasons why I love going to work. And then I would, encourage all of you, if any of you have a loved one with Alzheimer's, to maybe come to Art Focus and experiment, or bring art into your home and experiment with those materials. I want to transition now. I know I could talk about this for hours and hours. I have so many stories, and I'm sure all these ladies do too, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to transition into The Longest Day, which is an event put on by the Alzheimer's Association, and we partnered with them, Philbrook partnered with them this year to create our own event. And I'm going to pass this along to Nellie to talk a little bit about what The Longest Day is.
Well, the longest day is held on summer solstice, so it is the longest day of the year. And it's a fundraiser and an awareness day to bring awareness to our caregivers, because every day that a caregiver is the longest day. As some of you may know, sleeping habits change, and caregivers don't get the sleep they need, or they're interrupted by different things. So every day for them is the longest day. So this is a tribute day that was created for caregivers. And Laura and I and a couple others got together and were thinking about how Philbrook could have some interaction with the longest day. So we actually came up 2 years ago with an idea to have caregivers submit stories from a paragraph to a page long, and they send those to us, and then Laura would find local artists, and we would pair a story with an artist. So the artist would get that story like a week before the event, and then on the day of, which it's fallen on Father's Day, both years, during the day, Philbrook opens up, and we have artists all around what is the name of the area?
The Tulsa.
No, the inner area.
Oh, the Maybe Lobby.
Thank you, the Maybe Lobby.
At Philbrook.
And so that's set up with usually 10 to 12 artists. And so the people who have shared their stories, like Vicki, are able to come in and meet the artist, see their stories, see other people's stories, and see how this artist interprets their journey with caregiving. So we'll talk with Vicki, who, like I said, submitted a story this year, and then we'll hear a little statement from one of our artists who participated last year. But this is something that we're always looking for stories. We're looking for artists. Throughout the whole year, we're always keeping our eyes and ears open, and hope you can take a little bit of time, if you haven't already, and read a few of these short stories. And just, it's amazing. Some of the stories, I was all in business mode last year, and I stopped and looked at one of the pictures that I knew the person that submitted it, and just had alligator tears coming down, because it's so touching to see how I think that I like to dabble in art a little bit, but how deep some of these artists go and how much of themselves they give is just amazing.
So Vicki, would you like to share?
Well, this was a great experience for us, and while my husband, Wayne, who has Alzheimer's, was not able to participate, it provided an experience for my family to participate in this, and it was, it was just great. There's not many not many experiences that families get to experience together that are positive. And this was quite a positive, and it happened on Father's Day, and my daughter from Arkansas was there, and she was just in awe of this. And just to be able to experience this with her and her family, my grandkids, and it was very meaningful. And it was just a great experience. So, and it was just by chance that I participated and sent in a little story, and it really wasn't a story about an experience. It was just a story about the chain of events that have happened to me. My husband, I've been married 35 years to Wayne, and Wayne it was diagnosed with dementia 4 years ago. And my mother passed away in 2014 from Alzheimer's. And it was two completely different experiences. My mother in a rural Oklahoma, my dad took care of her till the last 2 weeks of her life. Where Wayne, my husband, we've been married 35 years, and he is a coach and athletic director, and we met teaching at Central High School 35 years ago. And it's so completely different. And even today, he's very active. He has such a short focus, but he is working out all the time. He's up and down the halls, and he's walking, and he's just engaged in something all the time. And it has really attacked his communication area to where I don't understand what he's saying very rarely. But then he'll come out with something that is so like did you go to work today? Or where's my brother Eddie? And then, I don't understand for days. I won't understand other things that he says. So where like my mother, many people around town didn't even know she had Alzheimer's. She was very appropriate with her questions, and she could just sit and gaze and be relaxed, and Wayne doesn't. Wayne doesn't sleep. He hasn't slept in a bed in a year. He sleeps in a chair, and he's very strong, and so he doesn't want to be forced to go to bed or forced to do anything because he doesn't understand what's going on. So I love what Aaron said about if you know one person with Alzheimer's, you just know one person with Alzheimer's because it is all so different. And 4 years ago when he was diagnosed, I was still in denial. Wayne, my daughter understood it more than I did, saying, Dad's talking in loops. He just talks about certain things. I think there's an issue here. And we went to the doctor about something else other than, we went about his stomach. But I said, we're also going to go about your memory. And he said, okay, we'll bring that up too. So we did, and the doctor said to me, I'm so glad that you all are here, because that you're asking about this, because we've kind of been worried about Wayne for 2 years. I thought, wow, 2 years that's been noticed. And so everyone is just so different with their diagnosis and what it's like to go through it. And we had some great road trips, so we just would, I'm so glad that we had the experiences that we had. And then something would happen that would change everything. We'd have an incident that brought me to the Alzheimer's Association. And it was the incidents that stopped the driving. And that was very difficult because while Wayne's communication was affected, everything else mobile, and he still is today. He walks, he does things, he manipulates things, he can get into stuff. So, but he was out driving and he drove too long, and that's always a real difficult thing with these milestones. But he was sent to the hospital because somebody didn't understand. He got lost, and he goes in to try to find his way, and they get real concerned about him, and he ends up going to the hospital, and it was just, okay, so that's the moment that, okay, we're going to stop driving. So you kind of learn to go through these things. So it was taken off me saying you can't drive anymore to, okay, the state of Oklahoma and the fire department and St. Francis Hospital says you can't drive anymore, but they'll let you know when you can. And he bought that story. It was really sad for us to go through, but it was something that, needed to happen. And then, I would take him to a day program. I still work. And so I would take him to the day program, and I would pick him up, and I had an activity, and it was here one evening, and about 2 years ago. And he was home by himself, and he decided to walk somewhere, and he was hit by a car, but he was okay. And so that stopped, okay, we can't be alone anymore. So all these big milestones, but I have to tell you, the one thing that's got me through it is connecting and doing things like this. LaShonda has been with me since the beginning. I went to the Alzheimer's Association because a friend told me, you go there and they'll give you some support and some help and they'll guide and direct you. And she did. She sat down with me and we did a 30-day plan of what I need to do in the next 30 days because I was really at a loss. I didn't know what to do or how to move through this. So I wouldn't have gotten through it had it not been for the support groups, the Alzheimer's Association, the connections that I got to make with other people. And I go to support groups now that just sharing the stories, it just gives you comfort and just helps you get through the journey. And so it's just been a place I never thought I would be. You know, grief, the activities like this help you get through the grief and the joy and all the things that you're going to go through. Because it's like a roller coaster. You deal with things as they come, and then some days you go, I can't believe where we're at. I can't believe the situation. So it's just been an experience. Yes?
How do you deal with combativeness? My father has become combative, and not too long ago, he slapped my sister in the face. And I think after his hand touched her cheek,
Yeah.
he realized, and I think that moment of remorse.
Right.
But he gets angry a lot, and I'm trying to help my sister long distance. They live in Massachusetts, and I'm trying to give her the best communication I can, because when I go home, I want to take this with me. It's really important.
There's no one answer that would work for you, but I know that just diffusing the situation, just redirect or just try to change things. Wayne has to have freedom too. He gets very combative if you try to make him come with me, come here, come in here. You know, he gets very combative. So you just kind of have to give him freedom within a safe environment, but the environment has to be safe. And it got to where my home environment was not safe enough for Wayne. So he is now in a facility. And right now, he is at Laureate to do a psych eval because he's been combative, he's been aggressive, and we have to keep others safe. And so it is, but that's generally not his mood. But it could be something like medication. So that's what we're doing right now is to assess, are we on the right kind of medication?
Are there good medications? Is there a list that I can find so that I can see if that is something that might be able to help my dad?
Yeah.
I would, probably the best thing would be to take her into some kind,
I think, is it your dad?
it's your, yeah, sorry, take your dad into some kind of a geriatric psychiatrist, if that's possible. There is no specific medication for dementia behaviors. The medications that are out there right now for Alzheimer's are things like Aricept and Namenda. Have any of you guys heard of those meds a little bit? Okay. It's really all that's out there. They're designed to help slow the progression of the disease. That's what they're for. They're not as effective as we would like to see, and I think there's medicines coming down the pipe. If any of you guys are ever interested in getting involved in research, we can tell you how to do that. We have some great programs. The Alzheimer's Association has great programs to get you connected with research and with clinical trials and things like that. But what they use primarily for people with dementia, you're treating the symptoms more than the disease itself, right? You can't actually treat Alzheimer's at this point, but you can treat the symptoms. So when they have things like that, which are more psychiatric symptoms, they're going to use psychiatric medicine to treat those. The issue with that is that it kind of goes back to that you've met one person with Alzheimer's or one person with dementia, you've only met one person. A medicine can work amazingly for one person and not work at all for another person, and they have no idea why. So it's a little bit of trial and error. It's why places like Laureate Geriatric Inpatient Psych Units exist, so that people can be in a safe and secure environment while they're trying out different meds to see what's going to work for them. But the other big piece of that is also just communication. And I would recommend coming next week on Friday. They're doing that improv for caregivers. A lot of caregivers end up just solely because of the disease and because we're human beings. Our nature is to try and orient them back to us, to pull them back into reality, which means as a caregiver, all you ever say is no. No, that's not true. No, you can't do that. No this, no that. And so one of the rules of improv is yes and. You're actually trying to say, yes, and how can we help you with that? Or yes, they say, I want to go home. And you say, yes, and tell me about your home. Instead of, no, you can't go home. You're not able to go home. Because you can imagine their brain doesn't work the way yours and I does. So you say you can't go home, and they don't understand why they can't go home, and their little fists ball up, and they say, no, I'm going home, whatever you do. And so you can end up with more agitation and more combativeness. So some of that is communication, some of it's environmental, and then if changing those things and adjusting those things don't help, medication is a little bit of a last resort, but a lot of folks do have to resort to some kind of anti-anxiety. I mean, you can imagine trying to imagine, it's hard to imagine, but being a person with Alzheimer's and how confusing that would be and how anxiety provoking that would be. And so a lot of folks end up on some kind of an anxiety medicine or an antidepressant or something like that, and that can help with behaviors too.
And let me iterate. We talking about Philbrook and art focus. We talk about all behavior is a form of communication. And so sometimes there is a family member that the loved one will connect with. And sometimes there's family members that loved one remind them of somebody that they didn't like in their younger years, okay? And so I'm saying this as an example is one of the participants that come to Philbrook, she see me at one of her soldiers' friends when she was in the service. She say, you're my best friend. We had fun and blah, blah, blah. And she goes into that conversation, and I go right along with her, and she starts to get engaged in whatever activity we're doing that day at Philbrook. And that's one of the things is that you go into the reality, and that when he slapped, that was part of the disease. It wasn't him. We go into the new norms that they're going into. And so focusing on that, and I was thinking about what Vicki said, is the short attention span. We see that a lot at Philbrook, is that, we may have a 10-minute project by the time we finish the project, and we have to be focused on where the participants' attention span is. So we may simplify the activity even more. And so that would be some of the things to look into when you talk about behavior, looking at the focus and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to circle back to the longest day. These are great questions, and I'm sure we can all maybe meet even after the panel if you have more medical-based questions. But to circle back to the longest day, we didn't just have studio artists. The artwork you see on the wall, it's beautiful and incredibly moving if you read the stories. And I wish every single artist from the Tulsa community who created that work was here today to explain their piece to you, because there's just so much depth and thought that they added into each individual piece. But one thing that was really neat was that when we first started, Nellie and I, 2 years ago, we reached out to some artists in the Tulsa community, and we were expecting just two-dimensional works of art, maybe someone who does sculpture. But we actually saw a response from some performance artists as well, which was just very, very cool. And also performance art in the form of a playwright. So Dan Mckeon is a local playwright. He writes plays, and he performed his play, A Long Trip, which is actually an award-winning short play, and he performed it at no cost 3 times during the event, and he did it for the past 2 years, which is just really, really special. And what was even more special about the second time that he performed this play is that he was performing it at the PAC, and people had to pay money to come and see this play, but he did it for free for us us the next day, even though he was exhausted. His actors and actresses were exhausted. So it was just a very special gift. Marianne Evans-Loam is a local performance artist, and she is extremely talented at what she does. And she's actually here in the audience, and I'm going to pick on her a little bit today. She came to support and just sit, and when she walked through the door, Nellie grabbed her and said, "Oh, come talk, come talk." And she agreed to talk with us a little bit about her experience. So, Marianne, if you want to come on up. And there are pictures of Marianne's performance. I wish I had the video here for you to see, but it's on the very back, the back left black panel. But I'd love for Marianne to talk about your experience.
Thanks, Laura. I was given 3 stories for my live performance. I'm actually trained as a visual artist, so my work always has elements of my 2-dimensional studio practice in it. And the 3 stories, I was given a story by a woman who had Alzheimer's, a woman who was the mother of someone who had, or the daughter, excuse me, of someone who had Alzheimer's, and also a caretaker. And as I was reading those stories, what stood out to me was how much hands are involved in caretaking. And one of the lines in one of the stories was, "It seems if mother has something to do with her hands, she is not as rude to me." And so I just thought about that, and I thought about how important my hands are as an artist, and that's how I developed the live performance that I did for The Longest Day at Philbrook. And so what happened was I asked 14 people who are very close to me to send me a photograph of their hand. And it could be any way that they wanted to. I didn't give them any sorts of, I want your hand to do this. So I have a friend who raises tarantulas, and she sent me a picture of herself with one of her tarantulas. I have another friend of mine who just adopted a baby, and she sent me a picture of her little baby's hands curled up like this. One of my sons sent me a picture of his hand. So I had 14 photographs of hands. I printed them out and laminated them. And I set them down on the floor in what I kind of felt like was like a hand bowl, like they were supporting me, like these hands were holding me in space. And then during the lead up to the performance, I painted my hands with brightly colored watercolors. So my hands were painted. And then for the performance, I walked up to the hand bowl, and I stood on it, and then I read these words, which were inspired by the line about the mother not being as rude if she had something to do with her hands. "If her hands are busy, there is more room for love. If your hands are reaching, there is more room for love. If my hands are making, there is more room for love. If our hands are open, there is more room for love." Yeah.
I want to be conscious of everybody's time. It's about 10:53. I would like to open this section up to questions you may have in regarding The Longest Day and Art Focus, or questions for the Alzheimer's Association. I know we have very limited time right now, so if you want to stick around after the panel as well, we can answer your questions.
When
Yes.
is the deadline to submit stories to the artist?
Let's see. So let's say the next one is June 21st. So
Second week of May.
second week of May. Yeah, we just created that. Second week of May.
You're welcome.
Yep, all the way in the back.
What would you say is the number one thing that we should take away from this, especially with medical students?
The number one thing.
I have one that no matter where they are in their journey with the disease, they're still in there. And they're still active participants in life, and it's up to us sometimes to help bringing that to the forefront. And it can be through conversation, through art. I think that's why we named it Illustrating Alzheimer's Moment Shared Through Creativity. We didn't make it about painting or writing or music. It's through creativity, bringing that person back out.
I think I'll echo a little bit what Nellie said, but also people think of Alzheimer's as a death sentence. I mean, when you hear that word, so many people are very afraid of it, but it's such a long disease. And so what we talk about a lot is, you know, there's diagnosis and there's death, but in between there's life, a lot of life in between. And so a big part of what this exhibit and what these programs are about honoring that life in between and making sure that that gets realized and recognized and taken advantage of, that life in between.
Did you have something?
I'm in the occupational therapy assistant program, and I am an artist as well. But taking it from just representing my classmates, how often do you guys work with occupational therapists? Or do you guys get any feedback from them, volunteers or anything?
Are you signing up?
That's right, because we need volunteers.
We welcome people. We even had some English students join.
Right. So Stephanie Youngblood's English class at TCC, her students volunteered. This past Art Focus, the last month, they came and talked to our participants and participated in the program themselves. Occupational, I have not yet met with somebody. And that being said, we do a lot of research. I do a lot of academic research. I'm actually in a master's program myself right now, and I write all my papers about Alzheimer's disease. So we're always looking to learn more. So if you're asking about wanting to share information or collaborate, I'm all about it. When we first started this program, I remember meeting with LaShonda many times and asking her questions, and she would make suggestions like, depth perception for someone with Alzheimer's can be challenging. So if you put a white piece of paper on top of a white piece of paper, the person may not be able to see where the edge of the paper is. They can't see the paper. So we collaborated, and LaShonda suggested putting down colored paper on our tables. So it preserves our table like a tablecloth. But then when we put white paper on it, they can see it because there's that contrast.
So if you have time or have any of your friends or, students, whoever, please, it makes a difference when you're hands-on to really be, to be engaged with the participants will make you rethink on how can I help the next person that I'm working with. And I know the students I think it made a very impact on the students that participated, that it will help them as they further along their education and go into the community. Because if you're not affected by this disease, you will be, okay? And then I just want to go ahead, because of the time, our snacks were donated by Oasis Adult Day Service, Mandy in the back, and they also have an art focus program at their facility by seeing how important art is to the loved ones, to the families, especially that the caregiver doesn't have to put anything together. They just show up and be themselves, and we're here to help walk through this journey.
And we have business cards at the back or information if you want to contact us about the art programs that we do, or if you have any questions for our support staff, we're here to help.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.